Jacob Hans versus Hector Vargas. Hector with the Roaring Moon, Fluttermane, Gyarados, Kanto, and Ninetales. The Ogerpon, Hearthflame, and the Iron Hands. Jacob running a interesting mono bug team. Masquerain, Vikavolt, Heracross, Volcarona, Illumise, and Kleavor. I'm interested to see how this one goes. Bug is a weird type, famously has some struggles at times, but at the same time, these are a lot of really good Pokemon that have their own niches in this current metagame. I'm excited to see how this one goes. Jacob will send out Kleavor and Illumise to start this one out. Hector, the Iron Hands, and the Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon with the Booster Energy does have the Terra Flying and the Acrobatics. If it wants to run with that, also has Tailwind, Knockoff, Protect. The Iron Hands, the typical Assault Vest set, and then on the other side here, Kleavor with Rock Slide, Brick Break, U-Turn as its 3 attacks, plus Protect. Illumise, the Prankster Tailwind, as well as the Prankster Encore, Fake Tears, and then the Struggle Bug is the last move there. Also has the Mental Herb to shrug off any Prankster taunts. Not that any are coming in here, but that's just the point of it in case a Tornadus comes in anytime later in the tournament. No Tornadus for Hector, so no need to worry about that. Fake Out lands there onto Kleavor. Tailwind still gets off cleanly for Jacob. And Hector might respond with the same. Hector does respond with the same, so both sides with Tailwind up. No big difference out of the beginning of this one. But now an opportunity. Illumise is able to Prankster Encore the Roaring Moon and could potentially shut that down to some degree. Kleavor also has some ability to do some damage here, has the Sheer Force and the Life Orb to do as much damage as possible. Iron Hands will switch out, get that cycle for the Fake Out later. And it'll be the Kanto and Ninetales coming out, so that will set up the Sun. Seen a lot more of the Alola and Ninetales in this metagame, but the Kanto and Ninetales still getting a lot done. And we'll see Terastallization here coming out for Jacob. It'll be the Kleavor Terra Rock, getting even more damage out of that huge Rock Slide. Assuming it is the Rock Slide coming out here. Will be that Prankster Encore, and it fails. Play ahead into the Iron Hands. Knock off onto Kleavor, lots of damage, takes away that Life Orb. Real big damage, but the Rock Slide still comes out. Weakened now without the Life Orb, but that'll, very nearly take out the Ninetales because of that Focus Sash. It holds on, and a ton of damage onto the Roaring Moon. Lots of damage there, but the Roaring Moon still outspeeds the Kleavor. Has an opportunity to try to take that down. Both the Ninetales and the Roaring Moon should be a bit faster than that Kleavor, and so it'll need to protect. Let's see what the Roaring Moon with the Acrobatics very nearly takes down Illumise. A lot of damage there. It's a dangerous Pokemon there, the Roaring Moon with that Acrobatics. It'll be Solar Beam heading into the Kleavor spot, so that won't do much of anything. And a quick Struggle Bug that will finish off the Ninetales. Is super effective on Roaring Moon, so I think another one will take it down, but in any case, that'll be it for Kanto and Ninetales. Didn't really do much. It got the Sun set up. We'll see if that ends up being very valuable for anything. Roaring Moon did have the Booster Energy, so it won't help the Photosynthesis, and past that, it'll weaken Gyarados' damage and not do a whole lot for Iron Hands. Speaking of which, Iron Hands coming back in, does have the Fake Out available again. Could try to outspeed Illumise and take that Pokemon down. Also, some ability to take down Kleavor. See what the choices out of Hector here. It does have some options coming out of this one. Kleavor will be taken out. Gonna preserve that Pokemon. It will be Volcarona coming back in. Volcarona's always a fun Pokemon. Rocky Helmet Flame Body, this option here. Has a really high natural special attack, but also has Rage Powder and some good defensive options, and so that'll hurt Roaring Moon with the Rocky Helmet and actually take it down. What a smart switch in there from Hector. Reading the choice there. And the Wild Charge will just come out and finish off the Illumise. A nice switch there by Jacob is able to take down the Roaring Moon. Now it is just the Gyarados and the Iron Hands available for Hector. Tailwinds on each side. Drop down. And it'll be down to the last two Pokemon for Hector here in the first game of round number 1. Gyarados does have the Intimidate coming in. Will intimidate the Kleavor. Drop the attack there. Also drops the attack of Volcarona, but that won't do much of anything. Volcarona doesn't have a ton of great attacking options here. Has Heat Wave and Bug Buzz on this set. Won't really do a ton of damage to either of these Pokemon. Both resist at least one, and Iron Hands has that Assault Vest, so it won't take too much damage against any of this. Wait on the decision here. Jacob with the quick Rock Slide. Can do big damage to Gyarados. Up 3/4 of its HP, and Iron Hands doesn't take much damage at all. Gyarados chomps down on that Citrus Berry. It'll heal up a bit, but it won't be able to take another one. Heat Wave coming out. This could be big if it gets a burn. That's a lot of damage onto Iron Hands. Waterfall in Sun, not going to pick up the KO. The anti-synergy there from Hector. The Wild Charge will finish it off, but even still, ooh, burns the Iron Hands. That's going to be tough. Iron Hands with the burn. Hurt by the Rocky Helmet. I think it only has 2 turns left without a Rain Punch to get any of its health back. And that's a tough break for Jacob. We'll see what the last Pokemon is. Does actually have enough health to take one more burn, but it is the Heracross coming in, and this Heracross should realistically be able to finish that one off, and Hector doesn't even want to play it out. That'll be game number 1 going to Jacob in this round number 1. This was really well played by Jacob. Definitely had some... There were some spotty parts towards the beginning. The Encore onto the Fake Out didn't really do anything, and Illumise kind of just sat there for a bit, but I mean, the big point in that one was Kleavor, Terra Rock, Rock Slide hitting right into that Ninetales right when it switched in. The Ninetales was able to do absolutely nothing that entire battle, and only really hurt Hector towards the end of that one. So Jacob, with that Mono Bug team, does take a 1-0 lead in this set. We'll see if either of them decides to switch up anything. As I mentioned, that Ninetales didn't do much of anything, partly because the Earth Flame Ogerpon wasn't involved in that battle at all, which I'm a little surprised about. Of course, the matchups aren't all perfect. Kleavor does some serious damage. It doesn't necessarily have a great option against Volcarona, although it also doesn't have any terrible options because it can't get hit by Flame Body or Rocky Helmet if it uses IV Cudgel, and it gets intimidated by by Masquerain. But apart from that, it's still a good synergy with Ninetales and still does a bunch of damage against all these Pokemon. None of them are able to take a IV Cudgel perfectly. So I'm curious to see how Hector wants to switch things up here. And if Jacob wants to switch anything up. Illumise didn't do too much in that battle. It wasn't bad. It got Tailwind up, and that matched the Roaring Moon. I don't think that Jacob had a great way to set up or block the Roaring Moon's Tailwind, so the option instead is just to get your own Tailwind up, make sure there is no speed difference, and just kind of maintain the status quo in terms of the speed matchup, which was probably the best idea there. Hector taking his time here, trying to figure out what the decision will be. Notably, there are 2 past Paradox Pokemon on Hector's side. Only one of them can take the booster energy, so the Flutter Mane is Choice Specs. So it does actually work with that Kanto and Ninetales, although I believe we saw that one's not coming to this battle. In any case, game number 2 about to get underway here. Jacob will lead Masquerain and Vikavolt. Very different this time. Masquerain with the Intimidate also has the Adrenaline Orb in case it gets intimidated itself. Also a Pokemon packing Tailwind. Drop the attack of both of these Pokemon here. And on the other end, it's Vikavolt with the Choice Specs. Thunderbolt, Bug Buzz, Volt Switch, and Terra Blast for the Rock type. Terra Rock. Roaring Moon with some options here. Can get the Tailwind set up again. Could also try to attack. I mean, Acrobatic's still a good option into both of these Pokemon. It is the Roaring Moon and the Iron Hand, same lead as last time for Hector. But Hector did get a little bit controlled in that last battle. Vikavolt famously slow. Might even be a little too slow even under Tailwind if Jacob is able to get it up this turn. And we'll see what the players decide to do. Early Terastallization here. Is Hector's Roaring Moon going to the Flying type? That Terra Flying, Booster Energy, Acrobatics combo on Roaring Moon has been famous since the beginning of Scarlet and Violet. A quick fake out on a Masquerain and stop it from doing anything. Here it comes, the Acrobatics. And that'll take down the Masquerain in one hit. Bring out the KO Bell. Sad I don't get a KO Bell. In any case, Vikavolt going to switch out. Ooh, the Volt Switch. Great damage there. Well read by Jacob. Loses the Masquerain, but takes care of the Terastallization and the Roaring Moon in one shot. And able to cycle out that Vikavolt. What a play from Jacob. What a great read. That would have been not very effective if Roaring Moon had not switched to the Flying type, so very, very well predicted there. Volcarona will be the Pokemon that switches in for the Vikavolt. Both players now have a Pokemon to replace on fainting after their previous Pokemon fainted. It'll be Cleavor and it'll be Fluttermane. Fluttermane is Choice Specs, will do a boatload of damage. As always, Fluttermane, one of the hardest hitting Pokemon we have seen in quite a while. Volcarona not going to be able to contain it perfectly. It will resist any of the fairy moves coming out of Fluttermane if it decides to go for any of that. Terastallization from Jacob. It will be the Cleavor again for that Rock type. Again, getting the option for that Sheer Force, Life Orb, Rock Slide, Terra Rock. Tons of damage coming out of that Pokemon if it's able to get it off. Will be the Rage Powder out of Volcarona to make sure it has as many chances as possible. Icy Wind, so speed control coming out of Hector. Solid damage onto the Cleavor, even with the spread move. Rock Slide, ooh, misses the Fluttermane, that's rough. That Fluttermane would have taken a ton of damage from that move. Iron Hands going to take it pretty well. The Iron Hands Drain Punch won't do much of anything into the Volcarona. Hold for the Flame Body Burn. Don't believe that we're going to see one there. No, we do not. Iron Hands, I think, actually lost health on that interaction because of the Rocky Helmet. And now a choice to make here for Hector. Fluttermane probably gets taken down by the next Rock Slide. Although the same may be true of a switched in Ogerpon. At the same time, the choice specs means that Fluttermane's not actually threatening a knockout here. We'll do a bunch of damage to Cleavor. Cleavor's speed will drop again. No Rage Powder this turn out of Volcarona. So Iron Hands does have the opportunity to Wild Charge into the Cleavor and picks up the knockout. A bit of a greedy no Rage Powder there. And instead, the option from the Volcarona is going to be Heat Wave. It'll do some chip damage to both of these two Pokemon, but both are still holding up just fine, and Vikavolt will come back out here. Last two Pokemon for Jacob. Vikavolt, a massive, massive hard hitter, but it's going to be difficult getting Vikavolt to be able to withstand too much damage from all these Pokemon, although again, Fluttermane is locked into Icy Wind. It's not really going to do a whole lot at this point, as Vikavolt is probably going to be slower than most of the other Pokemon regardless. So a lot of choices for Jacob as to how to deal with this. Fluttermane will switch out, so Jacob will see Hector's final Pokemon, which is that Ogerpon. Get to see our first Ogerpon of the day, very exciting. First Ogerpon of the Premier Challenge. Wild Charge into Volcarona. Hurt by Rocky Helmet, hurt by the recoil. Flame Body not going to proc. Heat Wave Ooh, does not take down the Iron Hands. Good damage, but just can't get it done. Thunderbolt, ooh, also barely not enough damage out of the Vikavolt. Vikavolt is now locked into Thunderbolt for the rest of this battle. Volcarona has the opportunity here, and to note for anyone who was not following, Volcarona at -2 speed outspeeded the ally Vikavolt. That is how slow that Pokemon is. Ogerpon has some options here as definitely the fastest Pokemon on the field. It'd be difficult for Jacob to try to work around. Vikavolt does have a little bit of bulk. Volcarona will use Protect, try to bait out any damage there. Ivy Cudgel not going to take the bait and will take that one-hit KO onto the Vikavolt. Good damage there, and Iron Hands Wild Charge won't be able to target anything because of that Protect. Now that Volcarona in a 1-on-3 at -2 speed, it's going to be difficult to be able to get anything done here. I think we're going to be heading to a game number 3. The Ivy Cudgel comes out, and it will send us indeed to a game number 3. Really well done by Hector there. I liked Jacob's first turn, the Vikavolt getting the Volt switch down and pivoting it out of the way, but at the end of the day, that Cleavor, it's been the Terastallization option both times for Jacob, and I think between the two of them, it's only really gotten one solid Rock Slide down. It was a very disappointing turn of events for Jacob that the Rock Slide missed against Fluttermane, as that probably would have changed the entire battle. Fluttermane probably would have gotten taken down in one hit there. So Jacob can look at it as a 9 times out of 10 when we do this matchup, I win, but at the same time, now Hector knows what that option is out of the Vikavolt. The Vikavolt is very willing to just target the Roaring Moon immediately if it decides to Terastallize, and the Roaring Moon may try not to Terastallize this time, may try its luck just against Masquerain 1-on-1, just without the Terastallization, just try to hit it with a hard-hitting Acrobatics, even at -1, and we'll see if Jacob decides to go with a different lead this time, back to his Game 1 lead, or if Hector decides to change anything up. Getting into battle here. Game number 3. Again, this is round 1 of a Premier Challenge here. Both these players 0-0. Going into game number 3. Eloise and Vikavolt this time, so a bit of a mixture of the first two leads, and it's Roaring Moon and Iron Hands once again for Hector. Again, that booster energy, heightening Roaring Moon's speed. So both these sides threatening setting up Tailwind, and Vikavolt at the same time is threatening just a bunch of damage as a Pokemon with just a bunch of special attack. Roaring Moon not extremely threatening to the Vikavolt right now. The Vikavolt does have some options if Jacob wants to play around that a little bit, and at the same time, Eloise, and basically, it can't do whatever it wants, but it can set up Tailwind pretty cleanly here. It also has the fake tears to work with. The Vikavolt will be the early Terastallization from Jacob. It's the Vikavolt for the Rock type. It does have Parablast if it wants to just launch out those powerful 100% accurate Rock type moves. Now that Jacob's probably upset about the accuracy of Rock type moves after that last battle. Tailwind comes up. See how fast Vikavolt actually is from this. It means that we're not seeing Fake Out. And it is the Tailwind from the other side, so we're just matching Tailwind. Wild Charge coming out into the Eloise, about half of its health. And now we'll see Vikavolt switch out with the Volt Switch. A bit of a surprise there. Going for the early Terastallization, showing that Jacob is now not able to Terastallize anymore. And Hector now has that extra intel. That Roaring Moon will still be the fastest thing on the field with that booster energy speed, apart from Eloise obviously having Prankster for any of its supporting moves. Its status moves, I guess you could say. Cleavor coming in. Not able to Terastallize now because obviously it was just used. Does still threaten a bunch of damage regardless. Life Orb, Sheer Force, lots of damage out of that Pokemon. the option is knock off to get down that life orb again, just over half of Cleavor's health. Will U-turn and take down the Roaring Moon with that super effective move. Cleavor will now get the opportunity to switch out. See what Jacob decides to send in right now. We don't know the fourth Pokemon for Jacob. We've seen the Vikavolt, we've seen the Cleavor, and obviously the Illumise still on the field right now. And Jacob will send out the fourth Pokemon, which is Volcarona. Hector targets that with the Iron Hands, takes some damage. Struggle Bug will come out first, that did 8 damage. And the Wild Charge does target the Volcarona, does over half of its health, and the Flame Body procs. A huge Flame Body there. That'll really hurt this Iron Hands for Hector. And it takes a bunch of damage from the Rocky Helmet, from the recoil, and from that burn damage. We'll have to see now what Hector goes for. This Iron Hands is not going to be very useful right now. Fluttermane will come in. Fluttermane has options to do some real damage here. Volcarona and Illumise are both at under half health. Could take the risk of going for a... Also, you do know what your what the other Pokemon for your opponent is. You've seen all 4 Pokemon. Illumise use the Fake Tears. A priority move to have the Fluttermane special defense. But it won't matter, it'll send out that Shadow Ball, take down the Volcarona. And meanwhile, Iron Hands, even at half attack, does not get the KO on Illumise. Does some serious damage with the Wild Charge, but can't pick up the knockout. At the same time, a lot of it might be trying to do more damage to itself just to make it easier to get out of this battle. At least get it out of the way. Vikavolt is the Pokemon that switches in here. Remember that Fluttermane, low HP stat and half special defense, so it'll take a bunch of damage from anything Vikavolt is able to throw out. That Vikavolt is also still Terastalize in the Rock type. Jacob does not know Hector's 4th Pokemon. Could guess it, but still does not have that guaranteed knowledge. Will means to use the Encore onto that Iron Hand, so it can only use Wild Charge now. Shadow Ball comes out from Fluttermane. What kind of damage this does? Lots of damage onto that Vikavolt. The Wild Charge will finish off of the Illumise. And now, we'll see how much this Vikavolt is able to do. This will be a big decider in this battle. The Thunderbolt is able to pick up the knockout onto the Fluttermane. Huge knockout there for Jacob. And now we are down to our final 2 Pokemon for both of these players. This is going to be a really interesting one. The Tailwinds go down for both sides. The Tailwind mostly there to threaten the other side. Say, hey, you have to set up your Tailwind because I'm setting up my Tailwind. And it is that Hearthflame Ogerpon as the last Pokemon. Jacob's final Pokemon, Cleavor, coming back in. Ogerpon is the fastest Pokemon here and should be able to threaten knockouts on everything. At the same time, Vikavolt and Cleavor threaten a lot of damage onto this Ogerpon. Although not a ridiculous amount of damage at the same time. Iron Hands is encored into Wild Charge, so I don't think with the burn against these 2 Pokemon that it will be able to pick up a knockout onto either of them. This is going to be a close one. I think it'll depend on what kind of damage that Ogerpon is going to take from either of these Pokemon. The Wood Hammer out of Ogerpon will pick up the knockout onto Vikavolt. Jacob's Cleavor, the last one standing. Ogerpon damaged by that Wood Hammer recoil. Cleavor with the Rock Slide. This will be big, and it gets the pick. It gets the KO onto Ogerpon. Huge, huge KO there from Jacob's Cleavor. And that may just decide it. The Wild Charge from Iron Hands, ooh, nearly KOs, but it doesn't get there. And Jacob now, with just 20 HP to get through, probably going to pick one of the safer options here. Might go for something with more guaranteed percent chance to hit. Guaranteed hit, Brick Break, finishes off the Iron Hands, and Jacob Hans with the narrow round 1 victory with that mono bug team. Really exciting matchup we got there in round number 1. And yeah, congratulations to Jacob. It was an interesting one. I really like that mono bug team. There were a lot of interesting Pokemon there, and definitely just really well played around. We didn't see very much Heracross, but we saw all the other Pokemon in pretty strong quantities, and we got to see all of their strong points. The Prankster Fake Tears was a big part of that last game. I don't think Fluttermane would have been taken down in one hit as easily by that Vikavolt as it was after the Fake Tears, and so that was able to kind of snowball the rest of that game and get down to that winning condition. But what a close game, what a well-played game by both these players, and yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with round number 2 here from the October Premier Challenge, Gym Challenge at Psycho Turtle.